Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, guys. Thanks a lot for joining this virtual event. Thanks a lot to Mr. Leoniak for presenting this wonderful this presentation on this wonderful topic. Thanks, Subs, for arranging all this event. And let me tell you about Harvard Hindu Alumni. This Harvard Hindu Alumni was formed in 2022. So we are a global community seeking to create a space for discussion, interaction, experience sharing, and research into Hinduism and its associated beliefs, scripture, and spiritual practices. So having said that, let's get started with the actual task which we have in our hand. So I'll give it to Mr. Leoniak so we can finish it on time. Welcome, Mr. Leoniak. Thanks a lot for joining.
Okay, I'm grateful to be here. Subs, did you have something that you wanted to add first?
I just want to add a couple of items. First of all, who's George? First of all, I think George is the most brilliant geometer I've seen in my life. Unlike others, George goes into independent research. He runs an organization himself, teaches children how to be the best they can about geometry. Where I came to know about George is my interest in ancient temples. So after my PLD in 2029 in 2020, I fell in love with ancient wisdom in Indian temples. I came to understand the ancient Indians constructed temples in such a way that they knew about the 8-dimensional universe, which we call today as the E8 crystal lattice. Then I also realized that by projecting the different points of this crystal, this actually creates the different tantra or tantric shapes. So that's when I met George and understood his extreme expertise in geometry, and I learned a ton from him. What George is going to do today is 3 things. One is he's going to explain, his calling in geometry. Second is to explain the Sri Yantra, the philosophy of the Sri Yantra. And the third is how can you draw the Sri Yantra, preferably by hand or by, through a CAD software. So over to you, George.
All right, thanks for the intro. I'm pleased to be here and grateful to share some of my interest with geometry with the group. And today is going to be a 2-part. I have a short presentation. Let me just introduce where I'm coming from. I'm in Vermont, so not too far from Harvard, Southern Vermont. And I have a background actually in conservation biology. That was my master's degree. And I've been teaching in the field for many, many years, sharing backgrounds and interests based on nature education, things like along those topics. But of course, being a pattern seeker and looking at patterns in nature, I became interested in kind of the geometry that's behind the brilliance that we see all around us in the natural world. So I started to pick up the compass and straight edge and start to explore the geometry and drawing techniques. And I'd say one of the classic drawings, one of the most ancient drawings, is this one here, the Sri Yantra, that has these 9 interlocking triangles that are very difficult to do in a precise way where the lines will all interlock. So that was, a bit of a mathematical mystery, but this design actually is a deep yantra, a device for meditation, bringing us deeper into connection with ourself or with the universe around us. So this presentation has 2 parts. I'm going to share my screen and just briefly go over some of the Sri Yantra geometry and trails that I followed to get here. And the second part is I'm going to draw the Sri Yantra, and I'll do it by hand with my document camera here and draw it. So we'll have that documented. The hope was that many of you who are out there would have the drawing materials to participate in that drawing session. But if not, I'll do it as quickly as possible, and maybe you can do that drawing later on. So the organization that I teach my geometry skills through, I call New Geometry, KNEW, because I didn't go to school to study geometry or mathematics. Literally following the trails and exploring the geometry is in a very deep kind of intuitive way, which feels like I know a lot of these concepts and techniques of working with the geometry just by exploration. I have a huge interest in working with the platonic solids, building forms and other polyhedra, and learning how to draw these different items. That's one of my major interests that a lot of my YouTube channel explores. And the Sri Yantra is one diagram in a huge, vast array of potential geometric explorations. So New Geometry, that's where you could find out more about me. And I teach apprenticeships and things like that. Just so you know, I do have a 33-page step-by-step guide that I created that's free on my New Geometry Courses website that will also give you all the steps that we're going to go over here, that you can download it in instruction PDF, 40 pages. So go check that out if you want a little bit more information, and another video there doing it as well. So the Sri Yantra, its origin is ancient, and also it's unknown. So could be thousands of years old, but the first documented drawing that we have of it, and I have is in there twice, is from the 17th century. So it's an unknown origin, but my introduction to a drawing technique that I particularly became fond of was one based on Patrick Flanagan, and this article is online. It can be found here at the Sri Yantra Research Foundation, is how to draw the Sri Yantra with the golden ratio pyramid. Okay, now this golden ratio pyramid is based on the golden number 1.618, the slope of the edge, and it has a base. Half the base here would be 1, and the rest of this would be the square root of 5. Now, I don't know how many of you are mathematically oriented, so we don't have to get hung up on the numbers, but that relates to Kepler's triangle, and it is very, very close to the slope angle of the Great Pyramid of Giza. So sometimes this is called the golden ratio Giza pyramid. So this is the technique we're going to use to draw the Sri Yantra. Will be based on this starting triangle, which will give us the foundation for one of the 9 triangles to do the rest of the drawing. The Patrick Flanagan, he set up his method of the downward pointing triangle to 2 Pythagorean triangles, 3, 4, 5 triangles put together. And I've discovered a better method to do that than this second triangle. So now there's a real reason why the 2 starting triangles are important to design, is because we're hoping to, I'll skip to this one, create a 9 triangle design where each of these intersections, where the 3 lines cross, the horizontal, an upward pointing line, and a downward pointing line of a downward triangle meet. There's 18 of those intersections. And to get that to 100% precision is near impossible. Except one researcher was able to do that, and I will show you his method in a moment to show you what it looks like. This is just some more mathematics on the Giza pyramid here. That researcher here, which was done in 2022, is Alessandro Chiodo from the Mathematics Institute in Paris. He published this in 2021, a method that is far more complicated than what I will show you here, with lots of lines and many, many circles, because he was aiming for that same solution to get all those interlocking locations done to ultimate precision. And It's maybe one of the first attempts that really did that, and also creating an equilateral triangle at the middle. Now, there are many methods to do this drawing, and the one that I'm going to do has an accuracy of 99.95% accuracy, and this is the design and the drawing here. And as you can see, I've circled this little red area because these are the two spots, and this is the perimeter of that circle where those three lines intersect. And if we zoom way into that section, you'll see that there's this little triangle that shows up, indicating that there's a slight imperfection to the drawing. But I'm willing to live with that because this is a very challenging technique, and you'll see how easy it is actually to do. Through my discovery process with the techniques that I'll show you here in just a moment. So that's a little bit of imprecision with this one. So it's about 99.95% accuracy, which is the best you can do, or you can try and follow along with this one. But even if you go back to some of the ancient pictures of the Sri Yantra from the old ones, when you zoom in on those spots, even the ones done from 200, 300 years ago, you'll see that there's a little bit of gap in those lines. So hopefully when you're done with the drawing, you can color in the different triangles and things like that. There's a couple other important elements that we are not going to show in the drawing. And this is definitely important to the Sri Yantra as a design, traditional design. The 9 interlocking triangles we will do are going to be beautiful and very well done. We're not going to add the 4 gates, which are these 4 elements around it, and the petals, which are 8 and 16 petals in the middle. There are other little extended technique, definitely not enough time to do that drawing. Those are relatively easy to add, but they do have great significance to the overall design for the overall meaning of the diagram. But the 9 interlocking triangles, the 4 triangles that point upward are representation of Shiva, and the 5 pointing downward are Shakti. And this is more of the creative process of the 2 of them joining together here. And all yantras are said to emanate from the creation of this ultimate design. Okay, so that's all I have for just a little bit of an intro presentation. I have about an hour to do the hand-drawn drawing, which I think will take less, and maybe we'll have a few questions at the end. When I switch over to the drawing, I'm happy to take any questions at that point too. But if you're going to draw with me for this time, but for those who are going to draw at home with seeing the recording, these are the materials that we'll use for drawing the Sri Yantra. I like to use an 18-inch ruler that has these grid lines on it. That helps with some of the drawing. A mechanical pencil. This is very important. The compass is the most important tool of the geometer, and we definitely want it to be a good compass that locks in place so it won't change radius when you're making your circles. That will definitely be the bane of the geometer. So a good locking one is a good compass to get. It has a wheel in the middle that's adjustable, of course. Micron pens, just for going over the pencil lines, are useful. Of course, an eraser when needed. And the drawing pad for this drawing and the dimensions that I'll do it to is going to be on 11 by 14 drawing pad or A3 sized paper. And then, of course, colored pencils and markers if you choose to draw in. Now, I don't know if I'm going to make it back to this presentation, so those are the drawing materials. If you have them nearby, please feel free to join along. But I don't know if I'll make it back to the presentation, as I said, so let me just share a little bit about New Geometry. I have a Facebook group called New Geometers. My website's newgeometry.space, New Geometry courses. I teach apprenticeships and have other courses there. I love to inspire people. These are some of my apprentices' drawings that we do in the classes to explore the geometric art and also realize that within this geometry is actual geometric structures and forms within the structures and shapes of the polygons. So these are just some from artwork from my students, as well as some more. We also do some constructions of pyramids and other geometric forms. This, of course, is the dodecahedron, the 12-sided platonic solid, star polyhedra as well, and other creative designs that come forth. Here's some beautiful artwork and more models that were made by another person in the class and myself. So great structure, beautiful integration of many, many geometric designs, working with polygons or polyhedra and weaving them together into creative, beautiful designs. Lots to explore. So that information can be found at the New Geometry courses, Facebook group, Patreon, and website and blog, and all that stuff there. And of course, if you want the guide for the 33 steps, just go over to the Sri Yantra at the New Geometry courses and get that 40-page booklet that they put together. It will be useful to have all the steps outlined in hand too. Okay, great. Well, that's it for the presentation part of those pieces. I'll take any questions if there was anything about that in the first section there. If just leave a moment here while I set up everything else to ask any questions. And if not, then we'll get to the main event here, which is drawing. Okay, I'm going to keep rolling then. So let me just set up the doc cam and I'll share the screen of that, and we'll do this all by hand. Oh, I could do it by the iPad. I don't know, Subs, what do you think? By hand or by iPad? It looks like this iPad might be working now. Let's do it by hand. Okay, so let's share the doc cam screen, make sure this is going well. Okay, here it is. So here's the design that we'll do. I drew this right before our class session, or the session we're in here, and do it all again for us. So please, if there's anything matter with the visibility of this as I'm going, just stop me and let me know if it gets choppy, anything like that. So we're going to base this on the golden ratio pyramid, which is going to be this starting triangle. Okay, so I'm going to have to flip to a new page here to get started. And the design is going to be different than the one that is in the hand-drawn document guide and how I do the setup of it. So this is the guide printed and the steps in here, what it looks like. I'm just going to start it off a little bit different for this drawing than what you'll see there. Okay, now the big starting step for this drawing is getting the center of your drawing. So this is why I like a nice long 18-inch ruler, is we basically take the corners of our page and we lay our ruler out from corner to corner, and then we make a little slash mark in the middle there, which is right there. And I'll make another little slash mark going the other way. And that's my center point of the drawing, that little X mark in the middle there. And I'll try and label some of this. These labels are going to be really small for you, so maybe I won't, but I'll call that A on your drawing. You can call the center mark A. Now, I'm going to lay a whole horizontal line out here, and I just square up my ruler to the edge of the page for this. And then we're just going to run that line all the way through that X mark so we have a nice long horizontal line. Now we need to get a vertical axis in here. We're going to do that in a second. But let's set some dimensions to our drawing here to start off with. A circle with the compass on your ruler. Let's mark that out to 2 inches, and that will be the starting radius. Now you don't need to make this circle, but we're going to put our compass needle over on A. And we're just going to mark that horizontal line that we did in 2 spots, to the left and to the right, dividing. So we have 4 inches across there. And if you're following along with letters, these are going to be too small for you to see, but we'll call that spot B and C. And one of the classic designs in sacred geometry to get that vertical line is called the Vesica Pisces or Piscis. Vesica Pisces or Piscis, it's said both ways. And we're going to set our radius now to that 4 inches with our compass. So needle, let's put it over on C to the right and B. And now we're going to, we can make little slash marks up above and below. But for this design, let's just do a nice big circle so we could just see it more clearly. So there's the one circle off of C and the other circle, making sure it's over to off of B, lining up to C, and make another circle there. Okay, so that mandorla shape, that almond shape here, that is how we're going to get that vertical line that runs through the center of the drawing. So at that little intersection at the top, we'll label that D, and E at the bottom. Do that vesica, which is the almond shape. We're going to set our ruler up there. Through A, it should go pretty close through A if everything's working out, all the way down to E at the bottom, and now we'll run our line all the way through the middle like that. And now we have that two-fold geometry set up. Okay, those are just the starting steps to get going. Okay, the next thing, we're going to take our compass with the same radius, which hasn't changed. It is C to B. Let's put that on A. And let's make another circle. This circle will be useful in just a moment. Right off of A. So we have 3 circles the same size. And this circle is going to be used to create the golden ratio division in just a moment. A very nifty way to create the golden ratio. So at the top of that new circle we did, we have a new point. A, we had D there. We have E down below here. This is going to be point F at the top. And we're going to go back from C over to F as our new radius, okay? So with the compass, C to F, that new point that we did at the top. We're going to make a circle around the original circle that we did, kind of almost like kind of a knot design of two rings, let's call it, kind of interlocked there. Whoops, should do a little better than that. Let me erase that one. That was a little off. It's tough to erase those little lines in there. Didn't seem like it was a good spot, though. Okay, try that one again. Make sure that's set. Okay, C to F. There we go. Okay, so we have that circle around that one. And then we're going to go from over to B. And don't put it on the new circle that we just intersect, the starting circle that we did there, B. And now we'll go through F as well. And we'll make 2 circles like that. Okay, now that is the setup of how to get the golden ratio in our drawing. In fact, we just divided the line in golden proportion from this point right here, which is going to be G on the right-hand side of our drawing. I'll make that orange color there. Over to this point, just past B, where that circle intersects. There's a B, and then over to H, that point right there. That's going to be our key location between G and H to get this circle to help create our pyramid, our starting pyramid. So put the compass on G and open it up to H. And with it on G, just swing it up without drawing the line and mark at the top of that vertical line you did, okay? And if I do it off of the opposite side, those two should cross. Top there. Okay, this is where this circle I'm about to do off of that little crossing point up here. This is at this top point, that's the new radius, A to I, to do our large circle that the drawing is going to be done within. All right, this is all just set up at this point. There's multiple steps to this drawing. So A to I, that's the radius. We'll make a big circle now around the whole thing. Should stay nicely in your page. There we go. Okay, let me just go over that circle real quick. I'll change out my pen. I'll take a micron pen. I just want to make that circle black quickly, just so that stands out for us, because that's going to be where the rest of the drawing is going to be done. The whole Sri Yantra drawing going to be done in that circle. Okay, so I'm just going to spin out that circle again with the micron pen over top of that. This compass comes with a little attachment guide to it that allows me to switch out the pencil to the pen nicely. Okay, so that's the circle that we'll do our drawing in. And just set this back up. I'm glad I practiced this beforehand. I hadn't drawn it in a little while.
George, I've got a question for you.
Yes, go ahead.
Where is the golden section over here between the points?
Yeah, let me get my golden ratio calipers real quick and I will show.
I think that's the key of for the entire drawing.
Yes. So these are golden ratio calipers. So when we open up our compass between G to A to H, okay, that outer circle that we did to point A over to point H, remember that's the place where I swung my compass up to get that circle, right? From H, so you see right there, it's from G to A. If this were 1, this would be the remainder of that would be 0.618. So that entire length would be 1.618. And that's the key to the whole drawing.
Brilliant. Thank you. This is the key.
Yeah, that is the key to so much of the sacred geometry that I work with is right there. So this little design that we did of this little band, this double vesica, magically holds the golden ratio hidden within it, which is just beautiful that it does. Very simple way to do it. It took a while to discover that through many drawings and contemplation, but it was in this initial 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 circle design. Now this circle, this point from G to H, when I swing that up, this line we're about to draw, this is Kepler's triangle that I mentioned. IAG. That's Kepler's triangle. That's the start of our pyramid.
So you're saying that's the 3, 4, and 5, correct?
It's not a 3, 4, 5 triangle. That would be Pythagoras' triangle. This is Kepler's triangle, which is going to be, if this base is 1, A to G, from G to I, that is 1.618. And then this would be the square root of phi. So that's the golden ratio.
Got it. Makes sense.
Kepler's triangle.
Wow.
So we're going to draw in Kepler's triangle, but instead of stopping, so with your ruler, the next step is going to be from I to G, and we extend that line all the way through to the circle edge that we did. All right, so I through G, all the way through over to this point here on the outside of the circle. So Kepler's triangle would be, I'm not going to draw that line in because we don't need it, A to G, A to I. If A to G is 1, this distance, 1.618, this distance, square root of phi. But for this drawing, this is our lower base triangle of the whole design. So we started off like this. So we do that on the opposite side. We don't have that point labeled. So I'm going to label this point, which is A, B, H. We have those. The next one, just inside the black circle, H, I, J, I guess this is point J. That's where we send our next line through that point from the top again, all the way down till it hits the black circle again. Okay, so let's put in our first base triangle. So this is a big golden ratio. Like I said, very close to the Giza pyramid dimensions, because the apex, the distance between the height of the pyramid from the side view is 1.2727272 if that's 1, and the golden ratio is 1.2720. So very, very close mathematically when the pyramid is scaled to 1. But we're going to do our baseline like so. Okay, there's our first triangle. Now, a golden ratio, 2 golden ratio Kepler's triangles. Very cool. So now the next step, this is the part that I really puzzled about, because how do you get the downward triangle? Because all the lines of these intersection points where these crisscrossing triangles have to match. So I tried many methods, and the one that I settled on that I thought was the one that got me to the 99.95% accuracy with this simple hand-drawn technique was this. Just below A, go down to that base. We're going to use this as a reference point here. We're going to call that K. So where that horizontal line crosses the vertical line, that's K. And we're going to take our compass again, and we go over to point F, which is just above that meeting place of the 2 vesicas up here, which the same radius, it's on this radius circumference of this medium-sized circle. We set our compass to that measurement. Okay, let me just open it up and get it set there. Okay, so we have that distance set with our radius. Now, we don't want to do a big circle here. It's not necessary. But we do need to make 2 slash marks to the left and to the right. And a good place to put these is just in between, somewhere over here. We're looking for a line. We don't know where it's going to be yet, but I need to make this little slash mark, which we'll erase later, long enough to pick up another line that's going to cross that. And let's do that on the other side. Remember that I'm anchored at the base of K. Okay, now we're going to jump over to F. So we're basically making a vesica Pisces again, because K to F. So that's, remember, the same radius. So if I put my compass up at F there and go to K, we'll all match. Now, this is where I want to make that slash mark, and this doesn't have to be as long because we just need it to cross the initial slash mark. And same thing on the other side. Oops, look, I didn't go far enough there. So that means I just have to go back to the bottom off of K and just extend that line a little bit further. See, that's all you had to do. Just if you missed that, just erase the length of that. But we need those little X marks because that's the key to the whole drawing to get that second triangle. And for that, that's the new base of the downward pointing triangle. So between those two X marks, we lay our ruler out there, get it nice and squared up between those 2 points, and we'll draw to the outer black circle all the way across till we get over to the outer points again on the outer circle. Okay, great. So now that we have that, now we have a downward pointing triangle. All I have to do is go down to the bottom of my drawing, which is going to be point L at where the black circle is, connect some dots, and we have another triangle that I'll draw in between those points. And portions of this are not 3, 4, 5 like the Pythagorean triangle, like was done by Patrick Flanagan. But honestly, the reason I came up with this other method was because it's very difficult to draw a 3, 4, 5 triangle with hand-drawn techniques. And this is actually more accurate, even though he said his was 100% precision. When I tested it out, it wasn't, but this was even more accurate than his by using this, but it's not a 3, 4, 5 triangle. Okay, great. So we have our upward pointing and downward pointing triangle. So now the next steps are going to be, how do we add all those other triangles? Okay, this is the last time we're going to use the compass for the drawing, and then everything else will be lines. So on the outer points on the black circle, let's just label those points. And I believe I'm at L. We'll go, the upper one here is M, going around N, over to the left, O, and P. We have those labeled. We have this point K down here. Let's mark Q just up above where that horizontal line we drew across here intersects the vertical line at point Q there. Sorry, the labels are so small. But that's why it's good to have this printout that I did. As you can see, all the, whoops, over here, all the labeling is upside down. Here it is. All the labeling is nice and laid out for you. Okay. So next up.
Question for you, George.
Yes.
The question that I have is, the pyramid that you've created right now, is it the same angles and precision as the pyramid in Giza, or is it different?
The downward one?
The up and the down?
The upper one is, like I said, very, very close to the Giza pyramid. It could have been created by the golden ratio if you use whole numbers instead of the golden ratio, you'll come up very, very close for the Giza pyramid. The downward one, I don't have I haven't found a significance to the Giza pyramid, but I haven't actually looked to see. You'll notice on the drawing here that they're not the same, because this is a little bit higher than vertical. We could have just reproduced the same steps if we wanted two of the matching triangles. And if you do that, you won't get the intersecting lines as accurate. You need this difference in size between the two triangles ever so slightly to get the appropriate balance to get those crossing lines. So they can't be the same triangle pointing up and down. Okay, next step is going to be, yes, the compass. Okay, so we marked those points out. Let's take our compass at K. This is at the base of the pyramid. Set the compass to that point N on the outside to the right of the base. And what we're going to do is take a compass reading of that distance, K to N, and then we go up to Q, plant our compass there, and then we make a slash mark down below on the vertical line. Okay, you don't need to make this circle, but down there is where we need from Q, little slash mark below. So essentially what we did there was we took a reading here, jumped up the needle over to Q, spun it down this way. That's going to be an important point. I'm going to label it with a thicker, I'll mark up my drawing here. I really want, you're going to need this point later. It's just below, I don't know, I have F labeled there, or E labeled. So it's just below E. Okay, that's going to be R. Right there. We're going to get point S up above. By doing the same thing, go to Q with the needle, open up the compass to M, put the compass now on K. So we're just hopping that measurement down. The slight difference in distance is key to the drawing. And now marking the vertical line up above there. And now that is going to be point S. Those are the tips of two triangles that we're going to add in just a second. Okay, we have R and S. Okay, the next steps is drawing a line from R. We'll start at the bottom first, through this point over here where the two triangles meet. That's one of the intersections. I guess I'll label all these. That's going to be point T. Let's mark all those little intersections first because they're all going to be used. U, V, and W. Those points. And I'll even highlight them a little bit here with the colored pencil. Okay, those are the points we're aiming for. And we're going to run a line from R through that T point, but do it in pencil. I'm not going to pen this in because we don't know where it's going to stop, right? So just send the pencil line from R to T like that. We'll pen that over in just a bit. From R again, let's go over to U and send it all the way out to the black circle. We're going to cut these lines off at some point. We just don't know where yet because that's going to be a downward pointing triangle. Let's go up to the top, that point S that I did up here, S to V. We're going to send a line through there and just send that all the way through again until we get to the black circle. Let's go S, do that point W at that intersection, and lay out another line there. Okay. Okay, so those are going to turn into triangles, two of the triangles in a little bit here. Okay, this is hopefully not going to get too complex. It's way easier to see this probably on the iPad than it is doing it this way. But hopefully you'll be able to follow this. There are going to be those lines that we just did made new intersections on our two base parallel lines. We're going to label those. Here we go. This point, this point, this point, that point. Okay. Those points I will label almost out of letters. Let's just go with A1, A1, A2, A3, A4. Okay, these are setup lines. They're not triangles, but what we want to do is go from that point W at that intersection and draw a line over to A1. You can see there's kind of this hexagon in the middle. That's what we're going to be working on from W to A1. The key thing we want to do here along this line, in fact, if you don't want to draw the line, you don't have to. Just set your ruler up between those 2 points and mark this line that's going down, the pencil line, right here on that pencil line. And label that point A5. Okay, that's just an example. We have to do that in all these, this lower section over here too, on the opposite side. Okay, so let's go over to V in the lower right at that intersection of those two lines up to A4 and lay out another little slash mark there. Color that in and make that A6. Okay, that's going to be a base of a triangle in a bit. So let's pen that in so at least we have done something that stands out a little more clear between those 2 points. A5 and A6, get a nice parallel line, like so. Okay, that will be a base in just a little bit. Okay, but that does give us a new point on the vertical line because there's going to be a triangle that's going to meet there, right? So we need to mark this point on the vertical line, A7. And now we're going to send a line from A7. We're going to work off of A7 because we're going to create that triangle that's going to go up one of the triangle edges. We'll do it in pencil again because we don't know where it's going to end, but we will end it at the black circle. Okay, so A7 through A4 at that other little intersection point where the pencil line that we did of the other triangle meets that horizontal line. Okay, A7 to A4. Send a line stopping at A7 to the line. We'll repeat the process, A7 to A1, up the other side. Okay. Okay. All right, so now let's finish off a triangle here just so we get something on here. Those 2 lines that we just did, that V, those meet this large golden ratio black pyramid that we have here, one of the triangles right here at these 2 points. So let's label that. I'll color it in. We'll call that A8 on the right, A9. And let's line our ruler up. And we're going to send that line all the way through till it hits the pencil line that's going off of R. Okay, that's going to be the stopping point for where those extended lines go we need to lay our ruler out between A9 and A8, those gold dots that I did up there, get it nice and straight, and send the line through those points out to stopping at the triangle, or that line that goes all the way through, unlabeled point right there. So that's the stopping point there and there. Let's color in the rest of that triangle, because now we can go from those 2 points. I'm not going to label them, down to R. We're essentially going over the pencil line we already did, but now we know where it stopped. So we could erase that little bit on the extension there just to highlight that a little better for you. So that part will be erased at the end. Same thing from the point on the opposite side down to R. Like so. And if the drawing's coming out nicely, it should intersect these points going through. So those are one of the 3 line intersections. There's 18 of those, and those are the parts that we're looking to get the precision of those interlocking triangles. Okay, so with that, we created another line, another location on the vertical axis between that top triangle. We want to mark that point. I'm going to start calling that B1. So far we on the going upwards, we have A, Q, B1. Let's go ahead and finish a triangle off there from B1 down to A5 and A6. That's the base of one of the triangles right there. So that's going to be a smaller triangle pointing up on the inside. Because these triangles, you'll see some Sri Yantra designs out there where these triangle tips don't touch the tops of the downward pointing triangles. And that's a key feature of the design, is to have these triangles also nesting and touching within the triangle base. The tip should touch the base. And this drawing does that nicely.
George, I totally agree. And I've even seen a lot of CAD, like computer-aided design stuff. It looks like the Sri Yantra, but
Yep.
technically it is incorrect. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yes, yeah, this one really comes together nicely with those components. I'll show you where the one little inaccuracy is in a little bit, but as you can see, this is a beautiful one to do hand drawn. It seems to be, there's a lot of steps here, but the circle template that we did was very simple. These 2 vesicas essentially to get the golden ratio. And to have the golden ratio in the design is some beautiful hidden geometry that's within it. That's why I really appreciate this design. Okay, now let's finish off this V from A7 going through A4, A9. We can create the top of that off of S. So for this, I don't have any circles up there. I just have to try and use my ruler the best as I can. And this is why I like a ruler that has this grid mark, because I'll lay those grids up. It's almost like using a T-square, right? Lay it up with a square up your ruler as best as possible to your vertical line. And through S, that top point, I know the glare is right on my ruler there. Through S, we're going to extend the line and end it at those 2 extended lines we did before. Should have been a little higher. Okay. So that is ending here on that pencil line I did, and over here on the right. And let's finish off that downward pointing triangle, because that will now meet back at A7 here. So from that line, those extended lines, they just went a little bit beyond there. But now we know where we could stop them. We're going to send those through, and those are going to run through those two other points we did there, meeting back at A7. So, okay, great. So now we have two large triangles. We have 3, this one pointing up, 4, 5. Okay, 4 more triangles to go. Let's now start working on the lower half of the drawing, because as you can see right now, we have the upper half of the drawing. So we need to finish off this triangle here. We have this horizontal line, a point Q, off the base triangle. Well, now we can get that one, okay? And for this, we have to do a similar thing. Is extending a line all the way through because we don't know where it's going to end, but we do have the points of where we're going to send that line through. So ruler is going to be on Q. It's on the base of the large downward pointing triangle on the vertical line, going through the base at these points right here. So let me do the line. Q through A3, extend it all the way to the black circle with pencil, and then Q through A2, extending it all the way through to the black circle. Okay, these two are going to be, the pencil lines will become triangles in just a moment. Because through these points, let me highlight them. So those points of Q, the triangle that's coming off of Q, through those points, that gives us 2 points right here, right? So let's mark that with the colored pencil on either side. And let's label those points. I think I'm at B, maybe B3. I can't locate where I was previously. B1. I'm not sure. B3, we'll call it. B3 on the left and B4. And we're going to run our line through those 2 points, and we're going to stop at the large triangle pencil lines that are just beyond those. Okay, this is sort of like what we did above. So run it through those points, squaring up the ruler best as possible. Extend it out. Like so. To get the base, let's finish off that triangle so we can complete that portion. Extend it through from the outer points that we just did, color them gold. And all the way back up to connect to the top triangle. Running right through all those points. And that's what you want to see. Boom, boom, running through those section points of where the 3 lines meet. Okay, and we're going to go down from the top, down to the other side, and now we've completed that upward triangle. Now, this one that's coming off of Q out to the side here, we're going to do the base off of R, because remember, we did this at the top. We have to use that same technique where we square up our ruler to the vertical line, like a T-square, just to connect the line to hit the point of the pencil line there. So let me square that up off of R, and then just send a parallel line to all the other lines, connecting across and ending it right there at that intersection. Here and there. And now we send 2 lines, line segments here from those base points to Q, because that's connecting back to that large downward pointing triangle That's going to go through points A2 and B4, giving those 3 points connecting, 2, 3, 3 lines connecting at each of those intersections, and send the line down from Q all the way back down like so. And there we have our base triangle. Great. So that added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the last 2 triangles. Okay. So far, all these points, there's no issue in the matching of the lines. There might be some imperfection in your drawing. I could see mine are just a little off. Plus, I'm trying to talk about this while I'm doing it. Remember, this could be a very nice meditative drawing to just get into. And that's part of doing the Sri Yantra, is to do this as much as it is to meditate on and watch it. The benefits of doing, say, this type of geometry will have great benefits just in the meditative process and the activity. Okay, so last points, right? So we are looking for, right, all these crossing lines, the horizontal lines, need triangles. So we have 2 left, right? We have K point here, which we'll do in a bit. And we have this new point, which came across here between B3 and B4. Let's mark that point here. And we'll call that B5. And this is the point, this is the line where there's going to be the slight 99.95 intersection point, inaccuracy. This little segment right here, it's going to go through it. It's going to look like it goes through. But if you zoom way, way in, you'll never tell hand drawn. But with precision of computers, we can see. So let's send a line up through B5 through this point and this point. So just to A7, to the left and to the right of those 2, of A7, those 2 points, part of the intersections, and those are the ones that were every Sri Yantra probably has, the closer it gets to perfection, always has an issue with, except for that one with that other technique. Okay, so let's run a line through those points. Let me label them. We're at B4, B5, B6, B7. Okay, let's go through the line. Run it through there. And now I'm doing a straight line through those, so that's going to work. So the imperfection is actually going to show up in a different place in the drawing, but let's do it and just make sure I stop at the right place. And that's the thing, I didn't tell you where to stop. So don't do that line yet. This is the stopping point right up here. And typically what I'll do is these points, which I'm marking out right now, is the base of that triangle. And alternatively, rather than running through that line like this, like I just did, you can what am I on? So B7, B8, right up here at that intersection, and B9, you can run your line through there first and meet at this triangle off of S. Okay, so let's do that because that's going to finish off that triangle. And you're going to see, if your drawing is good, that when I draw a line straight across, that it matches up to those outer points that we did on the base of that triangle. That will go right through there. But now there's just going to be a little bit of offness in their computer zooming in wise, okay? But it should all line up nicely. Okay, that's the 8th triangle. We have one more to do, and this one has to connect down to C. And this is going to create, because right here, point A, I'm darkening that in. That is your Bindu point in the drawing. That's the focus of the meditation, is on the center. And we need to create a triangle, the last one that's pointing down, because there's 4 up and 4 down at this point. We need that last little triangle in the middle that is going to go across. So let's mark these points. So at the intersection, locate A, and then just above to the right, there's a point. And just above to the left, there's an intersection of 2 lines. We'll call that C1 on the right and C2 on the left. That's going to match up. Oh, excuse me, we're not going to go straight through there. We're going to send a line through there, and we're going to stop at this triangle, B1, A6, A5. So we're going to extend the line through. Don't go any further than where I'm about to show you. All right. So it's just above. It's not parallel to that intersection line there, through those vertices, or not vertices, points. It's not at those points. It's just above it, sending the line through. But these 2 spots that I did to the left and right, where that line intersected, this upward triangle, B1, A6, A5, that one there, that's where we now finish off our last triangle down from those points to K. On either side for that last one. And that's it. We have done the drawing, completed the whole yantra. Now, the 9 triangles are very nicely interlocked. I've illustrated, because I love to be as precise as possible with this. There really isn't, I think, an easy hand-drawn way. This is, out of all the methods I've done hand-drawn, I tested out about 5 other ones that are on YouTube and books and everything. This has been the most precise hand-drawn, easy hand-drawn method. I don't believe the one is quite easy to do from the article that I showed you in the slideshow. So now you could, color in the different triangles, and if you wanted to do this at a smaller size, you can add the petals around it and the gates. As I said, we didn't have enough time to do that. We don't have enough space on our drawing to do that. But if you wanted to take your drawing or redo it at this size, you could just cut this out and put it on another drawing, and then a larger paper, and then do those things, or just make the drawing smaller. But there are other methods, and maybe YouTube videos, that can show you how to lay out the petals in those 4 directions with very simple techniques. This was really the main key challenge of the geometry, drawing wise, is to produce the interlocking 9 triangles like this.
Wow,
So,
George, this is brilliant. I can't imagine somebody could draw this by simple ruler and compass.
yeah, and there's the unmarked version that I did prior to the class. Good thing I did it hand-drawn and just one more time, because I remember all those steps. But it has a nice flow to it, and I love the circle pattern here. Remember, a very simple circle with the vesica in the middle. It's a very simple way to lay out the foundation and then send it through. So that's my share of doing the Sri Yantra with the golden ratio hidden in the design with the golden ratio pyramid. So
Awesome.
that's a unique method way to do it.
But
Okay, I'll stop my share, and then we have a few minutes here.
I'm going to ask you 2 questions, George.
Yes.
On that figure, there were 2 circles. One was the outside, one was the inside.
Yes.
Inside would mean, is there a significance to the 2 circles? Do they have to be 2 circles which have to be outside?
Are you saying that on the vesica shape that I did? Oh, these 2.
The outer,
These 2.
outer ones, yeah.
No, I just put those in because, it just barely had enough space to do it. And I just sometimes like to have another two circles. I believe, most of the Yantra will have that little two circle space, and I imagine there is some significance. I'd have to look into what it is in different Hindu systems of what the significance of that is. But I often like to think of it as between any sphere, there's an inside and an outside, let's say of a cell or something, right? There's this very thin little circle that goes around the inside and the outside so there's some sort of embryo type feeling to that has an inside and an outside of different thicknesses. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should definitely look at that. Second question that I have for you, George, is we looked at the golden ratio and the x-axis. Is there a golden ratio also happening in the y-axis?
Oh, along the triangles there, if we go through all of them.
Yeah,
I did check that out to see if it showed up anywhere else. That golden ratio primarily just showed up to get the pyramid. I measured other lines within the triangles and how they related, interlocking. I didn't see any other major significance there.
Right.
The golden ratio didn't show up in other places.
Oh, okay. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
The third and final question that I have for you is, when you draw the petals, for example, do you by chance remember how many petals there were?
Yes, the inner design, this one has more petals than what they typically have, but other traditional method has 8 petals that would be around the central yantra, and then beyond that would be 16, and then you have the 4 gates to the outside. So you have 4, 16 petals, and then 8 petals. So a lot of based on 4, multiples of 4 there.
Agree. So, just to add something interesting over here, after more or less studying some of these Buddhist mandalas, the petal is basically a 1-month lunar cycle, where the start of the petal is actually the full moon, the top of the petal is the new moon, and ultimately, again, it comes back to the same bottom. So that's the new moon again. So it's a new moon, full moon, new moon, full moon cycle for 8 petals. So if you count the number of days now for the lunar cycle, you can more or less get a kind of a calendar that they also followed. And the 2 to the power 1, 2 to the power 2, 2 to the power 3 likewise is where the harmonics is. They always, the doubling of 2, just the doubling itself is basically the feminine energy. And we have observed that stock markets even move either by doubles or square roots. So it's the opposing forces. So something very interesting is out there based on the cycles of the moon, but more as we keep on researching, we'll probably get somewhere.
Yeah.
And these people knew a ton of stuff.
That's really fascinating. I didn't hear about that with the petals. I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. I'll look into that a little bit more. Well, I'm really grateful that I got to share the drawing with you. I hope that it seems smooth with the video quality and was easy to follow. I hope that transfers over, and I hope that some people out there will give the drawing a try, because as I said mid-video, there's something in the doing of the activity of doing the drawing that is also leads to deep meditation, contemplation of what it is you're doing as you're getting into it. A great meditative thing to do. So give it a try, and you can make your own beautiful Sri Yantra artwork with this for yourself, or to give away as a gift, which are just beautiful to do by hand.
Yeah, John.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes, who was that just popped in?
Nilesh. So this is impressive, and I really loved the way you brought out all those structures, right? It started with circles and then a lot of triangles. Like, if you don't mind sharing the presentation, because I do want to share with a few other groups, and they were not able to join, and I'm gonna go through your YouTube videos. So please share the presentation, and I will connect with you, like, for some other organization where I think we can take it further and
Awesome.
with a larger group.
Oh, great.
Yes,
I really
yes. So
appreciate
this is recorded, and absolutely, I think we should. What George has done is he's just amazing. We should get him as much as what do you call it? I think he should teach this all over.
Yes, it's a lot more than the Sri Yantra. For instance, I love to draw the polyhedra, the star polyhedra, and drawing techniques, and really taking a lot of these. For instance, people who are very deep into the mathematical side of geometry, coming up with ways to draw the 120 cell. It's just fascinating material. So there's just a lot of depth and a lot of beautiful designs that I'm doing hand drawn with these sacred geometry, well, they're called sacred geometry techniques, of compass and straight edge, really. So, feel anybody out there, please feel free to email me with any other questions on any of my other interests. That's New Geometry, KNEW Geometry at gmail.com. So that's it, New Geometry at Gmail. Please feel free to reach out. I really am grateful to have been here today and sharing the drawing, and I'm glad it went smoothly.
Thanks, man. Chandan, do you have any final words before we all drop? Or anybody has any questions?
Yeah.
Prakash, Soumitra, Mala, Avni.
So I think there has been a question from folks about the initial sessions, like initial part of the video recording. So I'll share the recording as soon as it is ready. So you can go through it. And thank you, George. Anybody has any questions?
No questions. Just thank you so much, George. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, George, for the wonderful session. It was much, much better than I thought. Your knowledge on the topic is outstanding. Thank you, everybody, for joining the virtual event. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you, Subhashish, for introducing us to the George. Can't thank you enough for the same. Guys, come to New York, dinner on me. Have rest of the nice day on.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.